We are in week 3 of our September sermon series called Margin. And in the book by the same title, Dr. Richard Swenson defines margin for us. He says, margin is the space between our load and our limits. Margin is the gap between rest and exhaustion. It is the space between us being able to breathe freely and suffocating. Margin is the opposite of overload. I'm wondering this morning, how many of us feel overloaded? How many feel overwhelmed? How many of us need margin in every part of our lives? That's why we're here. We're focusing this month in this season where busy summers turn into even busier school years, asking God to give us margin. We've talked about margin in our schedules, creating this margin in our lives for the kind of Sabbath rest that lets God move in. That lets us acknowledge God is God, that we are not, and lets us live into the reality of how much we need God as both our sustainer and our provider. We need margin in our schedules. We've talked about creating margin in our attention, creating space so that God gets the best of our attention, not just something gets our attention, the someone who holds all the answers to all of our stresses, all of those things that would rob us of peace in a broken world. We want to give God that attention. We behold what we become what we behold, and we are invited to give God margin, or give the margin of our attention to God so that we can behold God and become more like God's Son, Jesus. Today we're talking about creating margin in our relationships.